Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, in 2006, Ciaran Marron had an idea to launch a solar business here in Ireland. Undeterred by comments that such a business would never work in this country, Activ8 Solar Energies has witnessed phenomenal growth and has recently been honoured as a participant in Deloitte's Best Managed Companies programme. But Ciaran, start by providing us with an insight into your own background.
Good morning, Karl. Thank you very much for having me. I'm an electrician by trade, an electronic engineer, and came out of college and went back and done my electrical apprenticeship after doing electronics and served my time at that. And in 2006 set up Activ8 Solar Energies following working in the renewable space for a couple of years previous.
And what was your vision for Activ8 Solar Energies back in 2006?
Back then I'd seen some solar technology with solar thermal, which is solar hot water systems for heating hot water, mainly in a domestic environment. And the company I was working with were starting into or had commenced heat pumps, and it was both of them were of interest to me, but the business had no real heat in solar, and I thought there was a huge opportunity for solar in Ireland. Now, many of my friends had a good laugh at that one, but I could see the potential, and I suppose took the big jump into back then, 2006. It wasn't really seen as a big jump. People think it was, but everybody was connecting their own back then. We were an invincible country in 2006, but we soon learned that it wasn't as simple as that when the recession started to hit. 18
years on, you now have 270 staff. I think you've had the last laugh in that respect, but what has been the key to growing the business over the years?
I suppose we never rest on our laurels. It's something that we're very keen. We're engineers by trade, so it's a very engineering-focused and solution-focused business. It's in our DNA, so we're constantly researching and developing new solutions and keeping ahead of the curve, whether that be solar thermal back in the day, bringing more recently into solar PV in Northern Irish market when that was available, where there was incentives there, and then later into the Irish market and battery storage. So constantly striving to be ahead of everyone. We don't follow the standards, we set them, and it's something we live by day in, day out here.
You completed your first acquisition last year by acquiring Albright heat pumps. What was the thinking behind that?
I suppose it's full circle for me. That was my background before I got into the solar, and the business is a local business, another Monaghan-based business, and we've been working hand in hand on a number of projects over the previous few years, and it's a good fit. We're very, very aligned culturally. We had a number of projects that we took Albright in to deliver upon, and there was serious synergies, and both technologies work so well together. So we would have worked for a number of councils across Ireland and in different parts of Ireland where we went in and did both technologies together. And yeah, it was a perfect fit. He had a history in heat pumps before he set up his business as well. And it's working very, very well. We just celebrated our first anniversary there earlier in September.
And of course, last year also saw you win your first contract in the UK. And I believe there might be an acquisition in the pipeline in the UK market over the coming months.
Yeah, so Scotland was our first contract in the UK. We had a number of installations across Scotland, and we set up a small office in Inverness last year, and that developed into more recently winning more business from both Irish and UK businesses located in the UK, and it's seen the need to grow both on the ground and here in Ireland for resource in Ireland. So we've looked across the market. It's a very fragmented market. There's a lot of people completing solar installations, but not at a huge scale like we would Activ8 are here in Ireland. But we have a target, and we hope to close, hopefully, that before the end of the year, which will give us a good footprint in the UK and accelerate our growth in the UK.
And you also have plans to expand across Europe with your first contract after being acquired in the Netherlands.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. It's on our strategy. It was for end of 26, beginning of 27 that we will start to hit European projects, but we've just landed our first. It's actually a data center project in the Netherlands, which is very, very interesting for us. So we've accelerated our ramp up for the European installations, but again, we don't sit on our laurels. We get at it, and the team have built a fantastic project management team around that project itself. It's something that we're going to take very, very close care of to make sure that it's something that we can replicate over and over and over again throughout Europe.
Coming back home to the Irish market, it's become very, very congested in relation to the domestic market. I was looking there this morning, 500 registered contractors now providing solar to homeowners in Ireland. Are the barriers to entry too low in this space?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Back when this scheme, it was created as a pilot scheme back in 2018, and there were 7 registered installers on the very first list. There were 7 companies across the country of Ireland, and now there's very close to 500, if not above 500, Karl. Yeah, it feels like everybody's getting into it. It's everybody's talking about solar, but it feels like a lot of people are somewhat jumping on the bandwagon. I suppose for us, the barriers to entry, potentially, it's something that would need to be looked at. It's interesting to see so many joining, and we are all about standards and keeping standards and making sure that the customer is at the centre of everything we do. It's not something you learn overnight. As I mentioned, we've been at this from 2006, and we've learned a lot along that journey, including several years in the Northern Irish market doing exactly what we're doing today. So it's not something you can turn your hand to overnight, and we'd be keen that the solar industry is, people make conscious decisions about who to use, their knowledge of the industry and indeed the products they use.
So what changes would you like SEAI to introduce to raise the bar in terms of eligibility for contractors to get on that panel?
Yes, for SEAI have been very good in bringing it forward. We would have no grant and probably no industry without SEAI to date. I suppose what really has to happen now is joint up thinking between the HSA, with Safe Electric, indeed SEAI, and the number of stakeholders are involved in what happens. This work is typically completed at rooftop, so you've health and safety risks that all customers are, when they are getting quoted for an installation, that each company is taking the same outlook. When we go and look at a house, we're looking at the full risk assessment, what's needed to access the roof, how we're getting the panels there, where the scaffolding, is there a lift, that the customer, that everyone is using the one platform, that you're not, I suppose, fly by night, broken off ladders or maybe not even tied off. So there's a lot of moving parts within the industry. As I said, it wouldn't be here without SEI, but I think it's a time now that extra step will be taken to look at pulling it all together and making sure that all the different departments are aligned and that the installers are on a level playing field.
On the topic of health and safety, I'm also hearing that the TAMS grant, of course, that's available to farmers of up to €90,000, that there's some issues with that in terms of farm access from a health and safety perspective, and also in terms of the speed at which the grants are processed for those. Are they two challenges in that space?
Yeah, the two challenges for Activ8. It's not an area that we hugely concentrate in, is the agricultural one, and it is around there's delays in grants and processing. They're done in tranches. So while SEAI, if you're a commercial or indeed a domestic application, you can apply and get word overnight. Now, you will typically have to wait for your grant payment after installation. However, Activ8 would always, in our scenarios, we'll wait on a domestic payment for a customer. So that payment will be made directly to us, so the customer doesn't bear that cost. On the TAMS, you have to wait till the tranche is full and then the application. So it is a slower moving piece. Obviously, with farms, the TAMS will also look at health and safety and other pieces within the farm, what is up to date and what isn't up to date. So there may be knock-on measures that need to be completed before you'll get a TAMS grant.
And given the competitive nature of the residential space, that domestic space for solar with almost 500 contractors now operating in, it seems that a lot of them now are transitioning across into the commercial space, which in some respects is like chalk and cheese because of some of the issues around the use of high voltage, downtime in factories, amongst other issues. Is that something that you're seeing yourself as well? And if so, what challenges is that creating in the market?
Yes, absolutely. We see more and more people enter that market with domestic, and they start at domestic and potentially move towards commercial. Commercial is a lot more challenging in certain ways. You mentioned there higher voltages with factories and downtime, switch outs and how they're completed. But even the overall design is not as simple as for somewhat plug and play. There's a huge design process, and here at Activ8 we have a full design team and have for many years, all based in Carrickmacross, where they design the full end-to-end commercial installation. That's right down to how it's all connected together, how the cables are contained, fireproofing through floors, and then obviously switch out plans for whether it be a factory or wherever you're connecting into that's all planned and done correctly. While there's a lot more panels, there's also a lot more work and a fair amount of planning. So whether it be a 500 kilowatt or a 5 megawatt job on a commercial, there's a huge amount of work has to go in the background. And that's not something you pick up overnight. That's something that we've employed engineers from all over the world to make sure we're leading our way in that field. But it's not something that you can jump off a house, work 3, 6, 8 months doing houses, and then all of a sudden you think you can do commercial. There's so much more to it.
And of course, there's been lots of innovation and progression within the battery space. How is that disrupting the solar market?
Yeah, so a number of years ago, there was a grant available for batteries, and it was stopped, which is disappointing considering the benefits that batteries can bring to the grid. So having batteries, especially on a domestic level, we can ease the burden on the grid, so get rid of the peaks, so we have the peak shaving. But for Activ8, we've invested heavily since then in AI and what we can do with AI, and we've partnered with SSE and developed Energy Hub, where we can make decisions around your power usage within the home, so we can decide, is it coming from the panels, is it coming from grid, is it a good time to charge the battery or discharge the battery? Potentially tonight, the battery hasn't been filled, we'd fill it tonight on night rate electricity and then feed it back to the grid. And we, with SSE, have an export tariff of 29.5 cents, so that's a market-leading tariff when you come with Activ8 as a domestic customer. So we've done a lot of work in that, and we've invested heavily in that R&D. In parallel with this, we've launched a program with Duracell, our battery provider. So it's very exciting times. There's a lot happening in that space, and there's a lot more to happen. I do believe when at a point in time that customers will be fit to trade electricity themselves, and we're trying to keep ahead of that and be the leading in that space.
Solar systems continue to drop in price. Why is now the right time for people to make that decision to go with solar?
We touched on it, but I suppose the big one being, especially on the domestic, the grant aid. We'll see that grant aid, unfortunately, drop by a further €300 after Christmas. We have a zero VAT on all domestic solar at the minute. And then as a microgeneration, you'll save up to 70% of your cost of a domestic bill. And again, we've seen over and over again, increasing the value of your home while reducing your carbon footprint. So it's a huge opportunity right now.
Now, I'm aware as well, Ciaran, that Activ8 Solar Energies is one of Deloitte's best managed companies. Talk to us about your involvement in that programme, why you got involved and how it has benefited the organisation.
The big one for us is we've been looking at it for years, and it's recognised as, the pillars of the best managed businesses in the country. As we've been in Monaghan, there's a lot of entrepreneurial spirits and several Monaghan businesses. I think there's 5 within Monaghan on that. So we looked very closely, and at the start of this year, we set ourselves an ambition that we would investigate what it took to get there. And year one, which was this year, was to benchmark the business and see where we stood as a business and how it was managed and where we could improve upon and, what was working, what may not be working. So the whole objective was to benchmark and to push forward in 2025 and push to win an award. It's an exclusive area to be, so we knew there's a fair amount of work. So we took it on and took a look in, and so there's a deep reflection on where we've come from. As I mentioned, we've grown substantially over the past number of years. So to be in substantial growth and manage your business so well and have the right leaders in the right places, it was very, very rewarding to realise that we had hit that benchmark this year, and to win it the first time of asking was fantastic for the business.
Of course, one of the challenges with growing any business is change management. So what has been your approach to management in general in Activ8 over the years?
We've been very fortunate. A lot of our staff have been with us years. So we have a number of staff are here 10 plus years and have grown within the business, maybe come in at a standard level and growing throughout the business. And something we're very, very keen to invest in our people and give them opportunities. So as the business grew, they grew with the business. And it's not for everybody, but there's a lot of people who grab that potential with both arms. And for the first number of years, that was hugely rewarding and satisfying to see the people grow within it. But as we started to continue to grow, we realised we needed some external help. So we have a hybrid where we invest in as many people internally and bring them on that journey with us. But as we grow into especially different areas and territories, we then resource externally. But we're very, very conscious about who we resource and their capabilities. But most of all, the culture. It's a family-based business. It's small. That sort of culture we want to keep, which is difficult to keep when you start. We're on target to probably have 300 staff by the end of the year. So very conscious of that as well. But it's very important we invest in the people. We've done a number of leadership courses. We have a 10-person senior leadership team within the business. So it's something that we don't take for granted. We work hard on. But yeah, very rewarding to see people come up through the business the whole way to a senior leadership role.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Ciaran Marron, founder and CEO of Activ8 Solar Energies, and I'd like to thank Ciaran for sharing his thoughts on the industry with us this morning.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.